All right, and we're back for another episode of the Lakers Fast Break podcast. It's Gerald Glassford coming right back at you here from Pop Culture Cosmos. The Lakers Fast Break, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, and Game Source. We truly appreciate everyone out there listening to all of our great shows. And if you can, give us that 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Plus, if you can like, subscribe, share, follow, or do whatever you can to support the Lakers Fast Break, the Run the Floor podcast, Pop Culture Cosmos, NBA Draft Junkies, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, and LakerHolics.com. It is truly appreciated. Overconfidence breeds carelessness. It's the second time I've had to say that when it comes to the Los Angeles Lakers because overconfidence did it once again. The Lakers came out flat. They came out disinterested. They came out just not wanting to go ahead and just give it their full effort. And you know what? They paid the price today off of one of the most incredible finals performances ever from Jimmy Butler, in my opinion. And the Lakers lose to the Miami Heat 115-104. And here today to talk to me about this game, which I'm still angry about because the Lakers had several chances to win, are four great guests indeed. First off, it's my good friend and co-host on all of our NBA playoff coverage. You got to check out what he's doing today at NBA Draft Junkies.com, his NBA Draft Junkies YouTube page, where there's row after row after row of great draft prospect videos, interviews, and more. It is my good friend indeed. It is Rafael Barlowe. And Rafael, where do you want to start, man? You started, man. I don't know, really. I'm just fed up because it just gets me so angry for all this overconfidence the Lakers have right now.
I think overconfidence was some of it, but if it were me, if I had to find someone to, I guess, kind of point the blame at, it would be Anthony Davis in a sense. I know that he was in foul trouble, but he still played about 32 minutes, and he just was not aggressive. He only took 9 shots. And I mentioned in the last game that I thought Miami outplayed the Lakers for the most part. It's just it was a talent issue. And that was just, the biggest difference between the two teams. And Miami just couldn't keep Davis off the offensive glass. And today, he just didn't have that same aggression on the boards, on the offensive end of the floor. Like I said, he took 9 shots, only one more shot than Rondo. And so if, the last few days we've been hearing him arguably being the best player in the world, it's his team, this, and that. And you can't take one more shot than a guy coming off the bench, especially like Rondo, who's not known as a guy that's going to put up a high volume of shots. So I think that he should have been more aggressive and assertive. And then I also feel like, in a sense, when AD didn't have it going, that's when Bron should have tried to match Jimmy Butler, and being assertive. And I think that was the difference between this game. And Miami's a tough team. They don't have any quit in them. And I think the Lakers made a mistake by giving them some confidence going into the next game, especially when, they're undermanned. They're without 2 of their best 3 players, and they were able to come in and get a win in the finals. Maybe it's because it was a virtual home game for them. So maybe that played a difference. But yeah, I mean, you just don't give a team that you're so much more talented than, you just don't want to give them any hope. You're supposed to, especially at 3-0, third game, no team has ever came back from down 3-0. So I felt like the Lakers should have came out with Game 7 mentality in this, and they didn't.
Absolutely. They were not the aggressor at all. It was very disappointing to see. And here today also talked about the game at hand is one of the blog editors for LakerHolics.com. I'm sure his 5 things for the next game is going to be very interesting as you catch his article on LakerHolics.com. It is breathing a very angry sigh right there. It is Jamie Sweet. And Jamie, continually in the fourth quarter, LeBron kept getting picked and not staying on Jimmy Butler. And with Jimmy Butler with a 40-point triple-double, just a truly incredible performance. 40 points, 13 assists, and 11 rebounds. And to me, again, in the fourth quarter, he constantly went off of screens, got himself somebody other than LeBron James and AD to play off against. And I think that was the difference in the ball game.
I mean, the difference in the ball game was one team came out with a lot of aggression and the other team came out pretty passively. And that stayed true for the entire game. There's not a single quarter the Lakers won. They lost every single quarter of this game.
But they had a chance to win and were in the lead at several points in the game.
Yeah, but I mean, you have to remember, like Rafael said, this is a home game for Miami. So they're in that home rotation in their mindset. The refs probably ref it a little bit different. I mean, Jimmy Butler went to the line, 20-something times? Mm-hmm. It felt like 20-something times. It was only 14, but the Lakers just didn't play with any aggression at all. AD and let's say tip of the cap and hats off to both the players and the coaching staff from Miami, because you could tell that not only were the players playing with a lot more energy, but that they had adjusted they didn't go to the zone as much as they had in the first two games. And furthermore, they were willing to let anybody else beat them. Like LeBron constantly faced double teams down the stretch. I think they triple teamed Anthony Davis a couple of times when he caught the ball in the post to force the ball out of his hand and let anybody else beat us. And frankly, that is the recipe for success. Somebody's going to have a good game. Maybe two people will have a good game, like Morris and Kuzma. But you need 4 or 5 other guys. And the Lakers starters tonight just did not get it done at all. To a man, they all underperformed and didn't show up. So, I first off, I just have to give a lot of credit to the Heat and their effort and the adjustments that they made from games 1 and 2 to tonight. And the Lakers got some work to do.
That they do, my friend, that they do. And also here to talk about today's game is a good man indeed. He's also a blog editor at LakerHolics.com. You got to see what he's doing today, and I'm sure he's going to have some angry articles himself coming up in the not-too-distant future, at least until Tuesday, that is. It is Magic Man, a.k.a. Sean Grice. And Sean, not a good result at all for the Los Angeles Lakers.
Not tonight, Gerald. It was very disappointing. I would use the word sluggish as well to describe what I saw in the first about 4 or 5 minutes. It was awful. It just felt like Jamie said, one team was prepared to fire all the bullets they had, and the other team was there just getting wet from it, just bleeding out. I was like, are you just going to stand there and bleed, guys? What's going on? And even when we came back, when it was 91-89, after Rondo made that layup, I'm like, here it comes. There's going to be a Miami run here. And sure enough, I think they went on a 16-6 run after that, and it was all she wrote.
That's right. And it just seemed like something that at the time that you expect AD and LeBron to step up, that's when they didn't get it done. And also here today, and he's got a lot to say, is a good man indeed. He is the man behind LakerHolics.com. You got to see what's going on today with LakerHolics.com, including all the great articles on his Medium.com page as well. It is LakerTom. And LakerTom, you said in 5, I'm hoping you're right, because if they play like this, it might actually be a lot more.
I'm pretty confident that it's still going to be a 5-game series. I think the first thing is hats off to Jimmy Butler. He did exactly what he had to do. He was aggressive. When you attack the basket the way that he did, even when you make a few offensive fouls, you basically are going to get the benefit of the doubt. And Jimmy was sterling in that. He turned the tables on the Lakers and basically hunted down KCP every opportunity that he could. If he didn't get KCP,
anybody.
He'd take anybody other than LeBron. And when he did play against LeBron, he beat him several times to the basket. It's kind of a funny thing when you look at the lineups. LeBron was -4. The other 4 starters were -15, -15, -26. So it was basically a terrible performance from the starters, especially Anthony Davis, who was the -26. Every one of the bench players was positive. So the Lakers bench really came on, played well. And you know, it's just a combination of weird things.
It is a combination of weird things indeed. So, but I will say this: as something's jingling at LakerTom's computer right now, he's so upset. He's so upset. But I will say this: when the bench puts up 53, like Jamie Sweet was able to point that out, and I appreciate it. 27-point difference between Miami's bench, and you and I talked about Miami's bench being stronger, at least than what we thought of the Lakers. And Tom was very adamant on the Lakers having the better bench. Well, today the Lakers did have a better bench, but it only kept them in the game for so much. You got to have your stars bring it home, and unfortunately, they didn't do it today. Braden LaQuasto, he said, "Why did the Lakers leave the game?" I'm assuming they were just so upset they just walked off the court, and obviously you're going to hear from LeBron for the next couple days at least about how horrible performance it was. You're right. It probably wasn't the best way as far as sportsmanship is concerned, but LeBron and AD and the rest of the Lakers were not very happy at all with that performance. That was something that at least the first quarter, I'm going to say this, Laker Tom, I'll bring it back to you now that you're back. From the first quarter, that looked like one of the worst quarters of the entire season.
Well, I think like Jamie pointed out, we lost every quarter. And as I started to say before my technical difficulties, Jimmy turned it around and did to the Lakers what LeBron did to them. And one of the things that's really benefited the Heat from playing the zone is it's hard to hunt people when you're in a zone. That's one of the things it does. It protects your weak players because it's really difficult to isolate them. It's kind of funny. I really wasn't upset of the game. I watched the game and I could see what was happening.
You were more upset on the last game that they won.
I was actually more upset in the game that they won because I thought they played terrible. I still, listen. This is essentially, even though it was only 2-0 or 0-2 for the Heat, this was essentially an elimination game because if you don't win tonight, the odds of you coming back are 0. So they faced an elimination game. They came out and played like an elimination game. And really, for the first time in the playoffs this year, the Lakers had a closeout game that they didn't play like a closeout game. They really got sucked in on it. I mean, I was myself crowing about the 200-1 odds, and they'd never seen anything like that in the middle of a series, unless it was like 3-0. But they really, credited Miami. They've, quote, made a series of it. I think the Lakers will be extremely highly motivated. They'll come back with a viciousness in the next game, and they'll end the series in 5.
Well, I just will say this. Yeah, I will correct. Yeah, there were higher odds during the summer of 2019 on the Miami Heat to go all the way. But you're right. There were odds makers here in Vegas and offshore putting as high as those odds you were talking about.
They were 4.3 to 5-1 entering the series, and the greatest discrepancy that we've ever had in the modern age has been 2.8 to 1, which happened to be against the Miami Heat when the Dallas Mavericks actually upset them and won that series.
And all but 1 minute in the second half, they had been leading by double digits. So obviously, odds makers were trying to go ahead and shift everything as far as for the Miami Heat. And if somebody's feeling a little bit better right now, if they put money down on that, as far as if you put a late bet right now in the series.
Do you think anybody really put $20,000 down to win $100 on the Lakers? I mean, on the Heat.
Somebody put down. I think it was $500,000 the other day that the Twins would win. So I do think somebody's dumb enough to do that.
The money that flies around here in Vegas. The money that flies around here in Vegas, especially from LA, because we're so close to LA and people come up every weekend to go ahead and spend their money from LA, and the money just really flows in from there, especially if it's on the Lakers.
This is betting on the Heat, unless you were Anthony Davis's brother.
There you go. Here we go again. Go ahead, Sean. You wanted to talk.
No, yes, Gerald. Thank you. I just wanted to say, maybe we do come out with a better sense of urgency and energy in Game 3, but there's a real glaring problem that you need to correct right now, and that's Jimmy Butler being able to find the open man, even if you double him, and the guy can make the shot. This is make or miss league, right?
Well, this
So
seems like the same thing that we had to go through with the game with Nikola Jokic.
Mhm.
exactly. But I remember this Jimmy Butler from 2019 in that series against the Raptors, and Raps fans were really scared of this guy because they knew when he got the ball in the fourth quarter and it was a tight game, sometimes he can just do Jimmy things, and before you know it, if we're too overconfident, it's going to be 2-2.
Now, overconfident we were indeed. But Rafael, I want to ask you this: if you're the Lakers, you're very angry, obviously, and we saw that after the end of the game, which Braden also pointed out as well. And thank you, Braden LaQuasto, for giving us a shot right here at the Lakers Fast Break. But I want to ask you this: I mean, what do you do as far as trying to control your emotions? Because you're obviously very angry and you're going to bottle up. And in 2 days, you can go ahead and come out with a vengeance. What kind of, I guess, you don't really need much motivation because obviously today's performance proved it. But what can you do to go ahead and just burning off so much energy because you really want to go ahead and just bottle it and just be able to dispense it out on Tuesday?
That's a tough question. I mean,
because LeBron's probably throwing a chair somewhere right now in the middle of the bubble right now.
Probably throwing one of his teammates around.
Yeah, hopefully not J.R. Smith because he did hit a 3. So,
and then he shot a fadeaway.
Yeah, at the end of the half.
Out of bounds. Yeah. I don't
maybe
know.
Danny Green. Maybe Danny Green.
Please throw Danny Green.
I feel like Milwaukee. I'm sorry. I feel like they ran a similar defense that they used against Milwaukee today.
Much less zone.
Yeah, just we're going to let other guys get hot. We're going to be physical. There were times when you try to drive into the basket and they had
LakerTom, there was much less zone than they used. Sorry, Rafael. I see you shaking your head no. I mean, Rafael, was there much less zone?
Yes. I didn't really see much zone.
Well, there was less zone because they played all zone the first game or the second game.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's much less zone.
Less zone. Right.
Yeah, I just felt like they packed the paint.
They played 3/4 of the game in zone, I'll bet you.
Yeah, I'm not sure the percent. I just felt like they packed the paint and they dared the guys to make outside shots, which Morris did. I thought Kuzma played well on the offensive end. But in my opinion, the biggest difference was the Lakers just weren't dominating on the glass.
Yeah.
And remember the last game, it seemed like whenever LA missed, AD was under the rim. Either he got the offensive rebound or they got a tap out. But I noticed this game, it was almost seen as if the Lakers' game plan wasn't to crash the offensive glass. It was to get back and set up on D because there was nobody under the boards. But as far as controlling their emotions, I mean, they're pros. They know that, I mean, I feel like they know that what they did was unprofessional, but I also feel like they probably thought the game was over. I don't think it was to the extent of like the Detroit Pistons just trying to show disrespect. I felt like, they thought, the game was just going to end. It was only 0.7 seconds, stuff like that, something like that. So, I mean, I think it's going to be a big deal out of nothing. I mean, 0.7 seconds. Yeah, LeBron kept walking out, but I've seen him do this before in other games. I've seen other guys do it also. And so, yeah, I mean, they probably did it at halftime too, if I'm not mistaken. There was still like another, possession left or half a tenth of a second, and guys, they go to the locker room. So I don't think it's a big deal.
I don't think it's really that big a deal either, but go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, no, I was going to say that's hilarious to me, Gerald. Tim Duncan used to do that all the time. He used to do it all the time, and nobody said anything about it. Tim's a nice guy, doesn't say much, doesn't have a problem with the media, But
with the refs is different because he's got that, that look he always makes when he's arguing with the refs.
Yeah.
Oh, there's nothing like the Danny Ainge look.
Exactly.
Or didn't Joey Crawford throw him out of game once because you happened to be laughing?
I think so. I think so. So it'll be interesting if he does the same thing when he's a head coach, but we'll have to wait for that one. Jamie, I want to go ahead, Jamie.
I just want to say on this point, I think it's worse when you walk off and it's an elimination game. Like when you're still got games.
Yeah, that's different.
In the cannon that you got to shoot. Like you're not like, hey buddy, how you doing? Like you're gonna be like, all right, I need to go cool off a little bit. And like, should you slap a couple fives and do this? Yes, of course. But I think like Rafael said, I think A, they thought the game was over, and B, it was a hard fought loss. Lakers know they didn't come out the way they were supposed to, and probably a little embarrassed and need to just get it over with and move on.
What's funny is I just want to add, I'm sure there's some Miami Heat fan who's talking about how the Lakers were so unprofessional by leaving early. But it's 100%. The same people that were probably at that game in 2013 probably left early too when they thought it was over, only to find out that that Miami won, trying to get back into the arena. Guarantee you there's somebody that was at that game that walked off that's complaining right now.
Excellent
100%.
Point. Excellent point.
100%.
Jamie, I want to ask you this because I know you mentioned the bench as far as Lakers and throwing away this game off of a great performance by the bench. Kyle Kuzma playing like there's a petition.org petition against him, not getting a ring. But I want to hear your thoughts on how we can go ahead and have the bench continue to play as well, because Markieff Morris gave you some effective minutes. Rondo, not the greatest of shooting, but still played effective minutes. He was aggressive when the Lakers weren't aggressive. So I want to hear what the bench needs to do to continue that. And Caruso played pretty solid as well.
I thought the whole bench, anybody who got minutes played pretty solid. I think it's going to be hard. You're not going to get probably that many minutes from Morris just because of hopefully Anthony Davis won't be in foul trouble. That's going to be the big thing there. But if they continue, if Kuzma, Caruso, Morris, and Rondo, who are the primary bench guys, I'm kind of amazed that J.R. Smith has gotten so many NBA Finals minutes over several other players, but it is what it is. I don't think it makes or breaks the game. I'm just kind of always like, there's J.R. Smith for some reason. Okay, don't really get that one.
Clutch.
They just got to show. Is he?
He is.
He was. It's just, like you said, it's a make it or miss it league, and I think he's been missing all the shots that matter. So when he starts showing clutch, I'll agree with that. But he hasn't showed it since he took a year and a half off of basketball.
It wasn't that clutch I was talking about. It was the other clutch.
Oh, yeah, his foot slipped off the clutch and you stalled out your car. Yeah,
clutch
that I can understand. Oh, yeah, a clutch with a K. I see. Anyhow, I think that if they just show up with the same energy, same intensity, I think Kuz had a little bit of deer in the headlights in Game 1. Even in the end of the closeout game, I thought of Denver. I thought he looked a little like, oh, this it's getting real, man. Like I gotta start showing up a little better. I thought he looked a lot more like himself in this game. By that I mean more like himself without going into one-on-one Kuz mode, which is kind of like death for a Laker possession. You might as well just hand the ball to the other team on a platter and be like, you know what? Yeah, he's going to do all this crazy stuff. Just take it. So I think if they just continue to play with this kind of energy and focus, they'll be good. Obviously making shots helps, but they're going to get open shots. The Heat, I think, aren't. You're going to see the same thing from the Heat now, right? If it ain't broke, why fix it? So they're going to keep doubling LeBron as soon as he gets the ball and starts moving towards the hoop. They're content to let him dribble the ball, 48 feet from the basket. But as soon as he drives, they're going to double him. They're going to force him to pass. They're going to double and triple AD to get the ball out of his hands or force him into really, really, really tough shots, which he's just not comfortable doing that. That's probably his next growth as a player is to be a little more comfortable against the double team because as he gets better, he's going to see a lot of them. And, I think that if it's up to the bench to win the game, we're in trouble. Like, the bench had a great game tonight, and we don't have enough of a bench. We don't have a guy like here off the bench. What I said about the bench is that Miami has more firepower off the bench. I never said either bench was better. Miami has just a bunch of guys that can get buckets on the bench. We do not. We got streaky guys at best. So that's where I think, if you get nothing from Danny Green, if you get almost nothing from KCP, and if you can take one or both of LeBron and AD out of the game like Miami did tonight, that's a big uphill battle for the Lakers to climb. And Rondo, there's not enough in Rondo's gas tank to like make passes or off the top of the backboard shots to overcome that kind of effort and focus that the Heat came with tonight. So that's going to be the biggest adjustment is who among those other Lakers starters can do anything. Like you don't have a lot to do.
Go ahead, Rafael.
I was going to say that I thought that Miami beat the Lakers, quote unquote, small ball unit that nobody has been able to really figure out because Dwight barely played.
Totally.
And AD played a lot of minutes at center.
Yep.
The problem is that because AD was limited with the foul troubles, Morris played a lot at center, and then you have no rim protection at all. In the game, we ended up getting 2 more 3-point shots, 1 more free throw, so that's 7 points. We lost the game by 11, so that's an 18 points or 9 more 2-point shots that they made.
It was better when it was 50, 40, 90 for the Heat, and they were getting us outscored at the free throw line by 20. It was better.
Well, the adjustment that was good is that the Heat basically had a lot of guys slipping screens, and they had Butler going inside and taking
5 out
the ball in, and so they ended up with 9 more shots. We lost 18 points in the 2-point category, and a lot of that is because a lot of our 2-point shots come from Anthony Davis. And his terrible game was really a detriment there. It's something that we have to look at because all through the playoffs, Morris has been great when he plays the 4, but not when he plays the 5. Because when he plays the 5, we really this micro ball lineup that Frank has gotten with Morris playing the 5 has not been successful in any of the series. So it's be an interesting thing. I mean, one thing that I'm thinking might be interesting to see would be AD starting at 5 for the last 2 games, because that's really our best lineup. And enough of the screwing around. Dwight, they basically did not really have he was a big negative also coming off, as a starter. And I know Jamie's laughing at this, but
no, the only reason I'm laughing is because I feel like after every loss, you're like, bench all the centers. They're never playing again.
Look at the 5-player lineups. I know you love traditional centers, but if you look at the 5-player lineups, the ones that are successful with the Lakers are the ones where AD is at the 5. That's pure, start Morris instead of Dwight would be a great adjustment because they're going to force us to shoot threes. So let's have some 3-point shooters out there. Let's not try to make it with Dwight. Let's have somebody out there. Let's have AD be the center. He can guard whoever's going to be their big center and then play a lineup that, number 1, can shoot from outside. And number 2, and this is the most important thing that Frank found out during the Rocket series, play the small ball lineup because it's better defensively. It makes quicker adjustments, quicker rotations, and it's much harder for other teams to beat. It's not only our best offensive lineup, but it's our best defensive lineup.
Sean, go ahead. I know you wanted to say something about 5 minutes ago when LakerTom started.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to go back to I think this is about Jimmy Butler making better adjustments against us than we're making against them. In game 2, I know everybody was kind of bored with that game, but after the game, I researched.
I'm pointing at LakerTom here.
I researched some.
I wasn't bored. I wasn't bored.
No, like between the season and the first 3 rounds, Jimmy normally averages anywhere from 12 to 20 drives a game, depending on the defense, how he's feeling, whatever, right? In game 2, he averaged 24. That's a 33% increase from his normal value. So if he's just going to keep on going to the paint and the rim, you have to adjust to that, whether or not AD's out there or not. AD was out there a lot in game 2, and Jimmy still found a way to get into the hole, to get to the paint.
Absolutely. So we have to go ahead and see what happens in game 4 coming up on Tuesday. But Rafael, I want to ask you this. when it comes to Miami side, and there's a good likelihood, I'm assuming that Bam Adebayo at the very least will come back for this game. I know he was expected to come back this game, but they held him out, and it worked for them because they were able to take game 3. What kind of lift is that going to do for Miami? And if you're Miami, how do you keep that momentum rolling?
I think it could be a lift. I think at the minimum, it's just another defender that they can throw to Anthony Davis, and I think it'd be an emotional lift. Also, it helped them on the glass, even though they did well today. But I also feel like even though Bam is an all-star and he makes their defense better, I think that with Olynyk and Leonard on the floor, it makes it probably a little bit tougher for the Lakers to defend because those guys shoot threes better. And so it eliminates Dwight in a sense.
Yep.
Dwight is going to play against Bam.
Which is why we should be going small.
Yeah.
But if Bam comes back on Tuesday.
Yeah, and I think that that's going to be interesting because if Bam comes back, then Dwight is going to play more minutes. And Dwight, his activity, even when he's on the court with AD, can get Bam in foul trouble. But if Dwight is not on the floor, rim running and, making guys foul him just because of his activity, I think that kind of hurts the Lakers offense in a sense. And then also their defense too, because you don't want Dwight guarding 3-point shooters because Olynyk is not going to really post
maybe Miami is a better team without.
I don't think they're better.
If you go by how they played the last 2 games.
Yeah, but who got them there? Did you see that performance by Adebayo in the conference finals?
Well,
no, but sometimes there's part of it is obviously the Lakers being overconfident. Okay, but another part of it is that Jimmy Butler all of a sudden was elevated to be the star player, and we've heard criticism throughout the first 3 rounds of Butler turning it on, turning it off, and being always the criticism was not taking enough shots. Not making enough opportunities, not having the touches that he should normally have because of the egalitarian nature of their offense.
Well, they were 12-3, so
there's an argument. There's a case to be made that they're better with a 3-point shooter at center than they are with Bam.
I don't know if they're better. Just the Lakers weren't prepared for it. But also
maybe better for the maybe better matchup for the Lakers.
Well, it depends on how you see the fourth quarter of game 1. Did Miami make some adjustment after the Lakers had this big run, or did the Lakers just really take their foot off the gas?
That was garbage time. You can't judge anything on garbage time.
But I don't think there's garbage time in the NBA Finals.
But you can argue since then, the series has been even, possibly. That 75-30 run in the second and third quarters is the difference in the series. But you can kind of say it's been pretty much even since then.
And they're playing right now small, similar to what we saw against Houston. And what happened ultimately there? The Lakers did find a way to beat the small ball that Houston was throwing out at them. It might take a little bit more adjustments by Frank Vogel, but I have faith that they're going to go ahead and do that. Yeah. But before we head on out, guys, and before we give everybody the lowdown on what we're working on coming up for this week, Jamie, I want to start off with you and your final thoughts on the game and what the Lakers need to do again to go ahead and try and regroup and come out a lot stronger in game 4.
First off, I'm going to say that I think Bam definitely makes them better. And I think it's more that Dragic isn't playing that has forced the ball into Jimmy Butler's hands and made him the primary playmaker that has made this Heat team a lot more dangerous than I think people are giving him credit for. Just to kind of throw that on that last log on the fire from before. In terms of how the Lakers can respond, I think that, they're going to have to look at ways to free up Davis to get buckets on the move at first. We were real stagnant in the first half entirely in terms of they just gave the ball to a guy standing around, and then that guy kept standing around, and then a bunch of other guys stood around, and there wasn't a lot of the movement that we kind of got used to seeing. And again, credit the Miami defense for adjusting to a lot of that, not letting easy transition, like shut down the easy transition basket games for the most part. I think Rondo had like one half-court pass for an easy transition bucket, but other than that, I mean, we did outscore them in fast break points, but not like the kind of embarrassing fast break points that are kind of a hallmark of the Lakers this year. Although the opening tip dunk was pretty embarrassing. But the Lakers just got to play better, especially the starters. If the starters don't play better, it's going to be like tonight. Really, Miami was in control for the entire night. You could say that the Lakers had a lead here or there. They put on some runs, and basketball works that way. But Miami had us at arm's length for pretty much the entire night. And frankly, it's, if you're a Lakers fan, especially if you're a Lakers player, it's a little embarrassing because they're down 2 All-Stars. Dragic wasn't an All-Star this year, but he has been an All-Star. And he's obviously played like an All-Star in the playoffs. And, they thought Bam was going to play. He didn't play. We didn't really respect Olynyk or Myers Leonard's game. And they embarrassed us from the perimeter, and it showed all game long. So, the Lakers will make some adjustments. I have a lot of faith in Frank Vogel that he'll make the right adjustments. I don't think that we'll start small, not because it's not well, but I don't say that because I think that the small lineup is bad or that the small lineup isn't good. I think that like many coaches, even like how Spo used to save that small lineup and how Kerr used to save the small lineup for the minutes that matter. And like the first 7 minutes of the first quarter is generally not where the game is decided. A game, you can establish a little momentum, you can get in a groove or whatever, but I think it's better to be able to deploy that small lineup when you want to, as opposed to if that small lineup doesn't work from the beginning, then what do you go to? You're not going to put McGee in and be like, well, now we're putting in JaVale McGee.
God, I hope so.
But so that's what I'm saying. My point being is that like the small lineup isn't bad. It's just that it's like
a valid point.
It's like any weapon. Do you want to like shoot with your best weapon right away, or do you want to see if the other weapons work and build up your arsenal as the game goes on? I'm thinking that he'll build up his arsenal as the game goes on.
Oh, there you go. All right, guys. We're going to have to see what goes on for Game 4 to see what kind of adjustments are made by Frank Vogel, to see how mad LeBron James will be over the course of the next 2 days, because he is fuming right now.
It's going to come out like Wolverine.
Yes,
he should be mad at himself too, because he made several gaffes down the stretch.
Absolutely.
A lot of turnovers tonight.
Yes, just the 9 assists, 0 turnover game that he had.
A settle three that was way off.
Yeah, just very disappointing.
He had 8 turnovers tonight.
Go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, I'd like to point out something. We did see a game earlier in the playoffs where AD wasn't assertive as well against Houston, but the Lakers were just shooting the hell out of the ball and having a great synergy on both ends. It wasn't noticeable really. The difference with Anthony is with a lot of big men, he gets in foul trouble and he kind of has to adjust the way he plays.
Well, definitely. That's a lot of adjustments right there for you. But you're right. Getting into foul trouble early and getting 4 fouls really affected the way he was playing throughout. You saw the aggression was not there. And aggression was not there on many aspects of the Lakers game today. Just very disappointing indeed. But before we head on out, I'm going to go ahead and get everyone caught up on what you guys are working on for this week. LakerTom, I always end with you, but actually I'm going to start with you this time, my friend. Besides the sheer rage in all the 15,365 articles that you have in the chamber at Medium and LakerHolics.com, what are you working on primarily to come up first that people can watch and read at LakerHolics.com and, of course, Medium as well?
I've tried to write something every day, just out of habit, very much like Rafael likes to have a video going every day. My goal is to write something every day. And very often I don't know what that article du jour is going to be until I start thinking about it. Right now, and I do agree with Jamie's assessment that the traditional way of using small lineups, the Warriors death lineup and so forth, has been to save it for later in the game. But I still want to take a look at the stats and look at the situation. Most of the stuff that I'm working on right now is basically for after the season. Sean and I have been working on a series that he's inspired. Just basically all of the Lakers editors talking about how this crazy year has impacted them, the Lakers, and their lives. So we've got a lot of different things that are going on, working on those things and so forth. I think the one question I'd have for anybody here, has anybody here changed their predictions as a result of today's game? And I will bet that nobody really has.
No.
Which tells you where the Lakers are. And I think LeBron James's biggest anger as he walked off the floor was with his own play.
Well, let's hope that's the case, and he'll go ahead and seek his vengeance out upon the Heat in Game 4 coming up on Tuesday. Magic Man, I know you got, like Tom said, you were working on some stuff, but is there anything else that Lakerholics.com fans can expect coming up in the not too distant future?
Oh, absolutely, Gerald. Just after Game 2, before we went on together, I had a chance to listen to the post game. And LeBron said something very profound. We're actually the same age. I'm born 11 days earlier than him. But he was saying when he was
So you're 25 too?
I wish. I wish.
Oh,
Maybe
man.
if I had $1 million to spend on my body a year, I might. No guarantee.
Right.
So you're not this human cyborg yet. Okay, I
No,
understand.
but LeBron was saying he remembers in high school that Kobe and Shaq were the most dominant duo he ever saw. And I'd have to agree with him. That was my first introduction to a dominant duo. Yeah, I did see Scotty and Michael play, but that was a different game in a different era. Shaq and Kobe captured our imaginations about what a dominant duo could be. And through the first 2 games, I saw it. If you squint, you could see Kobe and Shaq 2.0. So I just wanted to write an article inspired by what LeBron had to say and just how much joy we're having, even if we did lose Game 3, because we're still in the finals.
Jamie, I know 5 not so good things are coming on the way to Lakerholics.com, but before we go ahead and head on out of here, what are the your
Might
great
be a nice variation for Jamie. 5 not so good things.
Yeah, it's 5 not so great things right now, because after a loss, it can't be so great.
I mean, they're neither good nor bad. They're just 5 things. It's just things that I noticed, things that I liked, things that I didn't like. And remember, there's always a great song associated with 5 things. Something real catchy tune. I'm not working on anything specific. Other than that, I got some stuff for postseason in terms of the difference between the regular season, pre-bubble, regular season seeding games in the bubble, and the playoffs, stuff like that. But really, I'm just excited. Like Magic Man said, this is the NBA Finals, and no matter how it's being played or what the circumstances are, this is awesome. This is fun. I'm having a great time every single game because it's been so many years since the Lakers have been here, first off. And the fact that it's even happening as the nation goes through whatever it's going through and the world deals with this pandemic is even more incredible. And that to me is the joy to be had in this moment, is that, despite everything, it's all going down and it's a lot of fun. Lakers aren't going to play perfectly every night. Incredibly, the Miami Heat want to win. I don't have a problem with that. That's sport. That's that's competition. If it would kind of suck if you thought Miami was oh, whew, we got here. This is over. We're done. Let's head to Cancun, everybody. It's not like that. These are pros. These are people who spend countless hours a year working on their bodies, working on their game, putting in time. So I just respect the hell out of all these teams that made it this far, the league for putting it together. And, it's just been the NBA is more successful than America at stopping COVID. But that's an amazing thing to think about. And a little pathetic if you think about it, considering the resources America has at its disposal. But, for all of that, I'm having a great time. So that's what I'm working on. I'm working on enjoying the rest of these NBA finals, however many games they go for, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
It's just so interesting. Go ahead, Rafael.
I wanted to add something. I give LakerTom a hard time about having all these articles in the chamber, but I don't think tonight's game was pre-written.
It's just so to me, it's just so interesting to see Jamie Sweet having a great time when the Lakers lose, and LakerTom bored to death when they win.
Oh, man.
Well, I'm a little more excited now, Jamie.
I'm glad, dude.
Right?
Some of your comments on the blog today, I was just like, oh, dude, like it's been 10 years, bro. Like, why are you already like, I'm moving on to the off season. This regular, I don't know about all this stuff we're watching on the TV.
Well,
Like,
hey, listen, I'm glad the Heat put up some fight, man.
me
It'll
too.
make the next few games
I'm
more
not.
enjoyable.
I think they're going to put up.
I want W's for the Lakers.
I
That's
feel you,
what
Gerald. I
want.
I do too. But I'm also a fan of competition in the spirit of sport. That's all I'm saying.
Go ahead,
There's some-
Sean. I know you wanted to say something.
No,
Something to be said about
I've
it.
always said that.
Hold on, Sean. Sean wanted to say something. Go ahead, Sean.
No.
Great triumphs basically require great competitors.
It's not
True.
Laker Tom. It's Laker Sean. Go ahead, Laker Sean.
Thanks, Gerald. No, I just wanted to say, yeah, we're only about. I remember only about 6 years removed from cheering on Earl Clark, Ryan Kelly, and Robert Sacre in the front court. I mean, we're in the NBA Finals. Like, I'm enjoying every second of this.
I'm glad you are, my friend. But I wasn't enjoying every second of the day. But before we head on out,
Sacre blue.
yeah. Well,
Xavier Henry.
yeah,
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I like
yeah.
Xavier Henry. I always
Well,
felt bad for Xavier Henry.
One of my friends, Christian Ainga. How about that name?
There you go.
That's cool,
He was a
man.
throw-in in the Dwight trade, and a good friend of mine. And one day I'll tell you about the funny stories he told me about his time with the Lakers. It is hilarious just hearing it from his perspective, from sitting on the end of the bench and playing with Kobe, and just hilarious guy. But yeah, so if you Laker fans, if you remember that name, then you're definitely a diehard Laker fan.
I remember
Oh,
Christian
absolutely.
saying.
I do.
I wonder if he did. I want to see how much he played that year.
None. I mean, he
None.
told
Was it
me
none?
that. I mean, he probably played a little bit, but I remember
probably
him
played,
telling
like-
me that he's lived at the Marriott right across from the Staples Center. He knew there's no need to get an apartment or anything like that. He just stayed at the hotel.
That's when you know. That's
Brutal.
Yeah.
Get him on the podcast, man.
Yeah, he lives in Spain now. He's playing in Spain, and
Oh,
then I
nice.
remember the year after that, he was in the G League, but the Lakers were still paying him, and so he was still getting a really nice chunk of change. And great guy though.
Well, there you go. Gonna have to do that what we can to hear more great stories from that. I'm gonna get you on the show again, Rafael, at some
All right.
point. We're just gonna have a Christian Aiga hour.
One game,
there.
19 minutes. One game,
There.
19 minutes.
It's probably
Yeah,
the
there you
last
go.
game of the season or something like that.
I don't know. It doesn't say on basketballreference.com, but it just says, I mean, I could dig into it, but
Yeah.
Well, I can't wait to hear
Yeah.
those stories from you, my friend. But before we head on out, you got to go ahead and get everybody an update on what you're planning this week, because I know it's the same every day, and every day
Every
it's the
day's
same.
the same. Yeah.
Yep.
Just,
But for
I-
seven every days, what are you doing this week?
Well, this week last week I should say, I wanted to put out 5 to 7 guys that I think could be second round prospects that are international players that can be drafted and stashed. I have one I just need to do the voiceover for, and then I already have who will be the fourth. So I extended to this week. So the next week will just be focused on international prospects that, like I said, could be draft and stash guys, second round draft picks, if they decide to come over, because it's such a weird time, because quite a few players in Europe have already just went ahead and started their season, so they're playing right now.
Who wants
But,
to come to America, man?
Well, I mean, there's some guys that are here, but I mean, it's kind of tough, because if they're saying the season starts in January, then it's almost like you're going almost 9 months without playing. So might as well go play, start your season, collect a check, and then I'm just curious to see how it turns out if a guy is drafted and the season starts in January, if the team is going to expect him to come over and play, if his current team is going to let him out of his contract. So that's going to be really tricky.
A lot of tricky things may come of it, indeed. And once again, you got to check out all that he's doing today. NBA Draft Junkies. Check out his NBA Draft Junkies podcast, his Run the Floor podcast, and of course, everything that he's doing at NBADraftJunkies.com. For myself, I'm dropping another Pop Culture Cosmos on Monday that's going worldwide on radio and everywhere you hear your podcast, where we have myself and my co-host Josh Peterson. We're dropping our fall gaming preview. So you want to check out that. Plus, these headsets right now I've got on. This headset is the ELO 7.1 USB headset by Rocket, ROCCAT. It is now available as of sale today as we're recording this. So if you want to go ahead and check it out, it is $69.99 for the corded version that I'm wearing. They also have a wireless version at $99.99, so you can check it out today. Amazon's, Best Buy, Amazon, Target, doesn't matter where you get it. You can go ahead and look for it. It's Rocket, ROCCAT, 7.1 ELO USB. And I actually made a review of it at popculturecosmos.com. My friends, I'm going to get my synergy back.
It's going to be all right, Gerald. It's going to be all right.
Lakers in 5.
Breathing deep, deep yoga exercises here. Breathe. I got to go back to my Zen. Where's my Phil Jackson book? Where's the Art of Zen? Where is it? Where is it? I got to find it.
Sacred Hoops, baby. Sacred Hoops.
I got to do something about that because, my blood pressure is going to get like LakerTom's here, and I might need to go ahead and check it out every hour like he does. But I will say this. It is something that we're going to have to see because now it's a series. It is no longer going to be a sweep. Could it be like LakerTom's 5-game prediction, or could it be something more? We're going to go ahead and find out coming up starting on Tuesday. All 6 there for Magic Man. I said 6. Jamie said 6. Rafael said 7, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, before everybody got banged up.
Yeah, absolutely. And Sean said 6. LakerTom still says 5. So we'll check it out. We'll see. Hopefully LakerTom is going to be right, but we'll see what happens this week when it comes to the NBA Finals. And we're going to be here for every day that the finals takes place. So you will see our next episode either on Facebook Live or catch it wherever podcasts are found coming up on Tuesday after the game right here at the Lakers Fast Break Podcast.